It is Rise of Skywalker time here at the MBX Films Theater. We're going to open up the First Order Treadspeeder. This is a Galaxy of Adventures vehicle, so it has that scale Stormtrooper with it, but we're going to see if this vehicle will work with something like the Vintage Collection. We'll open up a Force Awakens First Order troop and see how the scale kind of goes and see if it's worth using as a vehicle for that, because not sure why they didn't make this for the Vintage Collection in the first place, or just even the 3 3/4 scale figures, but let's just see how it fits. And we'll open up and just check out the vehicle in general also. So I was kind of messing around with a Force Awakens Stormtrooper from the Vintage Collection just to see if I could position him to ride this vehicle, and pop! Lost the old leg just moving it forward. Trying to get into a kind of a more seated position there and not move very well. I thought the Vintage Collection was a little more sturdy than that, but legs don't really move forward like you would think for like a sitting position. I guess you have to do a rotate instead of just a push forward, but then you kind of get this, just seems like a risky move. But to do that we need to rotate, then rotate at the knee to get a sitting. But then this is the inner thigh, so it's a little strange, but I think we can get it without breaking a new one. Let's hope anyway. Usually they'd have maybe a different troop for a vehicle driver, but this does have a kind of chest symbol, I guess. So it's not going to be completely the same using a normal First Order Stormtrooper, but it's all we got. So let's open this thing, see what the deal is. Clearance! Free my troop! He got his missile and his blaster here. Got the little scout style blaster. Got the missile for the vehicle. And we got our Treadspeeder. Kind of its own dilemma. I'm not sure why they went with almost a downgrade in technology from just a regular flying speeder. I think a lot of it is just the sort of design for the fear of just, I don't know, the moving parts just seems more scary. First Order just building things for the fear look more than anything. They tried to do the very open packaging to try and make it look more enticing. Had the toy kind of exposed. You could see it all. Not a bad tactic. Here is the driver. He does have different armor than just a normal Stormtrooper. A little wobbly. So his really terrible function here. You just hold his arm down. I'm holding the arm down in place. And he goes, "Hey! Freeze!" It's just a flicking... It just, that's it. Really exciting. So he's a big guy.
For you.
The Galaxy Adventure figures have a lot of the same movement, or maybe even better than the Vintage Collection. It's just, you're gonna start collecting a whole new scale? It seemed like quite a leap for me. It's like, I already have tons and tons of figures. Normal other size scale that they've had since the 70s. And here comes this. Oh, slightly bigger scale, but not 6-inch figure. Thank you, but not sure if we're going to be restarting any collections in this size, just because Vintage Collection figures are seeming a little flimsy. They probably always were. This is a little more sturdy. Still could be broken. So he's a little bit bigger there. Take a look at the vehicle, at the seat. I think this is the button, maybe? Oh yeah, breaks apart. Phew, destroyed. You got these pieces that break away. They just kind of have some missile slots that those pieces go back in. They have this, one has the slots, one has the holes. Just put it back together that way, and then it has some slots in this piece that go down into, not real easy to see that you have it down on there, but the pedals don't really move. Here's the back set for again, you'd have the Jet Trooper, which is part of the Galaxy Adventure line, but there's no normal scale for the Jet Trooper that would be shooting off of this, like in the movie, so that's a little sad. Let's lock in the missile. Has the line up there. It is a button missile, so that's good. That's pretty weak. That is a very weak launch. Not impressed. Pretty lame, man. Little problem with the lazy beam here, red, in the movie, it's green. So that's kind of a mistake if you're gonna have the laser, but probably just gonna display it without the laser missile being in there anyway. So nobody cares about that. It breaks apart, tread doesn't move, there's a wheel that you could actually roll it. Doesn't work so great. Probably mostly be maybe holding it up. In the movie the back end kind of flew. So let's open up a Vintage Collection figure, see if we can get him seated on here, see if the scale is no good or if it's decent enough to use. Well, that just popped right off. I really feel like it should have came with the riot baton, would have been a more popular accessory than the little blaster that you don't really see in the movie. Here we got, hopefully, our first order troop that will not break at the first little bit of a sitting position. Just a little bit. I think the seat is like a spring-loaded. When you do the action, it will, you know, shoot the guy out. He's sitting here in the most uncomfortable looking seat I've ever seen. Of course, his feet aren't going to reach the pedals because he's too short, so it's going to look a little weird there. Not really. His hands are too small to fit in the actual grip, I believe, in here. But they rest in here and they kind of hold him in place. So it's going to look a lot bigger. Of course, down here, he really looks... But if you could get a jet troop, he'd probably look pretty nice on here. I don't know why they didn't just release this for your sort of normal scale. You know, that's just... I call it normal because there's just so many Star Wars figures in that size, more than any other. That's just kind of the common scale for a Star Wars toy, but... The movie, just the sizing, that he's a little short, because I think the tread would be the full size of a person, just like this. So with this guy, he's scaled right. Obviously, he's quite a bit shorter. But for me, since there's just so few Rise of Skywalker toys for Vintage Collection and like that, there's not even any releases as of right now for just like a 5 points of articulation like basic figure. There's nothing. So this will be nice to have a little depth in a very tiny collection of Rise of Skywalker figures. It's going to be the smallest collection I have between Force Awakens and Last Jedi even. There's just going to be hardly any representation of them. A little sad, but this will add a little beef to that collection. Especially if we can get the a jet trooper to sit on the back. And he's got a cup holder here for his beverage, but it's a little far to reach. I think you can only drink in at break time. Can't drink and drive. This guy I'll probably just give away to some kid or something. Maybe find a few more of the Galaxy Adventures. Can't really have him be the giant with the others. Look a little weird, but the driver is supposed to have like this different arm padding. And it looks like there's just detail missing here, I would imagine. I don't think it's supposed to be all white. Extra black in here, and then sort of writing and insignia there for the driver. But this will work just fine for me. I'm not gonna be too stressed about it. Especially since I'm stretching even getting this vehicle for my collection, since it's not even meant to be the right scale. But I'm forcing it to be so. It's got a spare helmet. I say it works. What do you think? Terrible? You would never be caught dead with such a thing in your collection? Well, I would. So, on you. Pretty sweet. Rise of Skywalker. Not shabby. Wow! Will never break. It broke. Be careful with your vintage figures. They are not that durable. I literally got an extra one because I was afraid I was going to break it again, but oh well, you can never have too many stormtroopers. I like this thing. Looks cool to me. You know, I love it.